What's up, my party people? It is Monday night, which typically means I bring in an NBR, and that's what I'm doing. We obviously had G-Day this past weekend. Spring practice has come to a close, and luckily for Georgia, they got out of G-Day, completely unscathed in terms of the injury front. I thought, going into the day, that was probably one of the primary concerns for Kirby Smart and this Georgia staff, and you could probably tell by the way in which they called the game and how they operated throughout the day. They were trying to protect guys, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Just general show notes tonight. I got winners and losers from G-Day for you. I got a handful of names that we're going to talk about. Some, most inside the Georgia program, some outside the Georgia program that we're going to talk about just a little bit. Got one individual that was both, in my opinion, a winner and a loser from G-Day, and we'll talk about them. And we'll also talk about, spring practice obviously come to an end. Now there's a real sense of what Georgia has and doesn't have on their roster, where the holes are, where the needs are. We'll talk a little bit about that today. And, of course, we will open up the floor to some Q&A. So let's hold off on all of the Q&A. I know you guys were loading it up last week. If you would, just for my, convenience, save those till the end when we actually open it up for Q&A. It keeps me from scrolling all the way back up through several hundred YouTube comments. So extremely grateful for you guys being here tonight, but I really want to take a minute and thank you all. If you were here for the live stream, the watch along party that we had Saturday, by far one of the most successful shows we've had on this platform. So that is a testament to you guys, not me, a testament to you guys and Ditko, obviously our producer, who has the night off from working hard and working his fingers to the bone this past weekend over G-Day. So super stoked, as I mentioned, to do tonight's show. It's probably the least amount of show notes I've had going into a show like this in forever. Typically on Q&A nights, I just open it up to the floor. Nowadays, we're just kind of ending MBR with Q&A. So a little bit different of a platform for us tonight. But, moving forward, I like this. I feel like you guys enjoyed Q&A as much as I did last week. So we'll keep it going that way. If that's what you guys are feeling, that's what we'll do. I'll keep the earphones in tonight just so I can tell whether or not I'm losing the audio. So forgive the white cords going to my ears. But, a lot of talk in the chat already about the Clemson article, as they're calling it. Not worth my time, guys. I'm not going to be out here responding to someone who clearly wants to be responded to. The way the internet works today is, everyone has a platform, big or small. Everyone has a platform. Everybody has an opportunity to get their thoughts and their opinions out, which is great. Do not get me wrong. But it also leads to things like what happened today, where I guess you could call him a Clemson writer or whatever. And I'm not partial or, angry or whatever. Not angry, but, I don't have any malice towards FanSided as a network. That's why I actually got my start. Fun fact, in media, I actually started with FanSided covering the NFL draft. So you won't hear me say anything bad about them, but what their platform does allow is there's not a lot of editing going on. It's just guys kind of writing articles. And it is the fans' opinion. It is the FanSided opinion version of whatever's going on. But that individual that wrote that article today knew exactly what he was doing. Every single time a Georgia fan quoted that tweet or quoted that article and said, "Can't believe this guy said this ridiculous stuff." Well, it typically tends to those Twitter audiences ultimately clicking on that link, which, guys, he won. That guy wins in that moment. When you click on that dumb article and you click on why he is making these opinions, you're allowing him to win. So just don't do it. I'm pretty sure it's the third time that individual has done that this spring alone. Guess what? Spoiler alert, there's gonna be more. So just ignore it. Just don't read it. Don't click it. And if you don't click it, the guy will end up talking to the wall, and ultimately he'll end up being done with what he's doing. He will stop his troll attempts. Trolls in this world do that for attention. That's what they want. They want your response. They're trying to create some type of fiery response out of you. So don't do it. What we did not do today is write a response article to some clown writing some troll article. It's not what we're going to do. And I've given it enough time here. So don't even bother, guys. If you don't read it, it's not there. It didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares about that guy's opinion? At one point in that article, he said literally 7 Clemson wide receivers will be on NFL rosters. They'll play on Sundays. It's the most asinine statement I've ever heard in my life. Don't give it any credence. There's no point in listening to it. So just don't. That's the way I handle those guys. I think that's the way you ought to handle those guys. Discord is popping right now, which it should not be. So we're going to drop those. Keep getting dings over there from Discord. Before we get any further into tonight's show, I want to ask you, give that thumbs up We got a reasonable sized audience here. The more you thumbs up this link, the more you share it out to different Facebook groups or whatever, the better this rating goes. The more fun you guys have in that YouTube chat, and the more, potential trolls show up. So we embrace them here, not necessarily on Twitter with their articles. So give that thumbs up, share it if you will, if you want to, that's fine. Send it wherever. And while you're also in this is funny. These guys know that I'm a dimwit. Asinine, big word of the day. You are 100% right. And we'll probably use it 3 more times as we typically do when I run across a big word that I ultimately get out of my mouth. So, appreciate you guys for being here. Share it wherever. If you're not already a member of the Patreon service, please sign up. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. The link is in the show notes. We've had a couple of really good days over there, or probably really good months over there on Patreon. So please feel free to give us some support over there. All right, enough of me begging for your support as you're already here supporting me. Got some winners and losers, right? And we'll start with 2 guys that I thought were obviously the talk of town this weekend, and that was Darnell Washington. We'll start with him and A.D. Mitchell, which, come to find out, I've been calling him Adane, so A.D., I apologize. It's actually Adane or Adane, something like that. We're going to call him A.D. from now on because Adane is not it. I think it is Adane. So we'll call him AD. Coach calls him AD. Players call him Tex. AD had a great day, as did Darnell Washington. I think Darnell showed last year towards the ending of the season, as the season came to an end, his body slowly but surely got much, much better, much, much tighter. And as his body progressed and as he got into more of an NCAA and SEC type of body, and tighten some things up, he ultimately, as we got our first free Discord, kind of donation here tonight. Thank you, Robert. Free month of Discord for someone. So if you're in here and you've been thinking about signing up for Patreon and Discord are the same, by the way. If you're one of those people that have been thinking about signing up for a long time, maybe money's a little tight. We are still in a pandemic. Economy is still a little tight. People are still jobless. So if you want to be a part of a community that maybe can take your mind off some things, or maybe just you want to talk some Georgia football with some people that know a little bit about what they're talking about, then feel free. Hit me up on Twitter or email me, Brooks Austin or Brooks7711@gmail.com, or just hit it up in the YouTube comments. We will take care of you in terms of a free Patreon month, as Robert has given out. Appreciate you, Rob. As super chats come in tonight, we will hit them. We got Q&A at the end of the night. So hold your questions until the end of the show, and we will get all of those in. But no, back to Darnell. It's always, to me, been a matter of separation, right? And a lot of people say, well, Brooks, he's 6'7". How much separation does he really need? Well, guys, it's still the SEC, okay? And it's still, against Clemson, you're still going to be playing high quality and high caliber corners and defensive backs. So you still have to be able to separate and get open, despite how big he is and despite how willing JT Daniels is to give his guys opportunities. If you're not creating any space, I can't willingly throw you the football over and over again. It's putting the ball in risk, or it's putting putting risk into the situation in terms of the defender being able to make a play. So one thing I saw progressively as the season moved on, Darnell ultimately got much more athletic. His routes got much crisper. His separation at the line of scrimmage got much better. He's always going to be able to separate late, right? 6'8". He's always going to be able to use that frame, pull away from guys. But like I told you last year, when all you've got is late separation, if you're not creating separation throughout the route, it puts a really big emphasis on your quarterback's accuracy, right? His ability to fit balls into tight windows. So I think that's something that progressively you've seen Darnell Washington get much, much better at just in the short time that he's been on campus. And it's only, a matter of time, it's going to be interesting to see how much better he ultimately gets, is what I'm trying to say. Didn't get enough coffee into me today. Kind of low energy, but if you're going to be a professional broadcaster, if you're going to be a professional on-camera guy, there's going to be days you come in here in front of a camera and not really feeling the juice. Typically, I'm filled with juice. I got a ton of energy on these things. Tonight, not so much. So tonight, we're just going to give you the goods, man. I'm not going to be in here jumping off of a wall, even though maybe that caffeine will set in from that only cup of death wish at some point tonight. But no, I think the separation ability has gotten much better, which came from his body getting much, much tighter and getting much more comfortable in running a professional route tree, right? Because that's what Monken does. It's a 100% NFL caliber route tree that he's asking these guys to run. So important for him to continue to get better. I thought last year the blocking ability was something I didn't expect to see from a guy like this who in high school out there in Nevada, guys wasn't really doing a whole lot of blocking, if we're going to be honest. Was kind of out playing in space, doing what he was doing a little bit on Saturday, not really doing the end of line stuff. Whereas now at Georgia, Todd Hartley coached him up exceptionally well, I thought, in his first year. He was doing some things blocking wise that were, 3 or 4 year NFL veteran type stuff, wall off blocks, backside cutoffs by himself, solo blocks on the front side of zone, things like that. So he progressed really, really quickly in terms of his blocking ability. And now he's catching back up to progressing in terms of his route running ability, which is very, very important for the success of what Georgia's ultimately going to do next year. I told you as soon as Pickens went down that it wasn't about just finding another George Pickens, because you're not going to find it. What it was about was finding a handful of guys, right? A slate of guys that could ultimately recuperate what you lost in Pickens. And if Darnell can continue to on this track, he might end up being that bailout guy, right? He might end up being the guy that Darnell or that JT Daniels has a sense of a safety blanket with, that, hey, if I'm in trouble, I can just throw it in that vicinity and my guy's going to come down with the football. If that's the case, that loss of George Pickens ultimately becomes a little bit easier to take. Robert, like I said, we'll remind me at the end of the show. We will get this one. I do have some word on Blaylock for you. We can talk about it towards the end of the show. Let me get through these winners and losers. Thought Darnell was obviously a big winner. The other one, A.D. Mitchell. Guys, if you are on the Patreon service, you've been hearing me talk about A.D. Mitchell since January. Literally since this kid's got on campus, it was a holy hell, where did that guy come from type of reaction to this young man's abilities. During player-led one-on-ones, during player-led 7-on-7s, this young man was borderline dominating. I mean, absolutely having his way with SEC, defensive backs. So when I hear those types of reports, when I hear those types of sources, raving about a young man, you should have expectations for him to have success early, right? He's not taking time to get accustomed to the speed of the game or anything like that. He's out there balling. And like I said, if you've been signing up for Patreon, Saturday wasn't a surprise to you at all. And matter of fact, it was confirmation of what you've already been told. So I have missed on some things, and we'll talk about them a little later. I think that's, and I don't mean to be that guy, but I think that's what people like about what I do over there on Patreon. If I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. And I was wrong on a thing, one specific thing that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. I'm actually a loser on my winners and losers list. So there you go. But A.D. Mitchell, man, I don't know if it was as much about him just being a beast, right? Him being the next superstar at Georgia. Partially, right? A large portion of what he did Saturday was like that. But also a large portion of it was about the only X receiver left, right? This past season or this offseason, Trey Blunt, Matt Landers, Micaiah Tongue, all gone. And I know people are like, oh, well, they weren't going to play anyways. Well, they damn sure would have played yesterday or Saturday because, Marcus Rosemi-Jacksaint out with an injury. Jermaine Burton out with an injury. George Pickens out with an injury. Those are 3 guys on the current roster that would have been playing either X or Z receiver. And now you compound that on with transfers exiting the roster, and you're suddenly really, really thin at the X and Z receivers. And for people who don't know who those are, they're the outside primary receivers, right? X, Z, slot. Right? You follow me? So that's what happened there. It was a product of opportunity, but give the young man some credit. He capitalized on every bit of that opportunity. So you have to give the young man a tremendous amount of credit. He's in our winners bracket. The other guy, actually, let's hit on some losers. And I'll hit on a loser real quick. Jake Camarda, great punter, right? One of the better punters in the country. Struggles with some consistency every once in a while. Not a field goal kicker. I think we found that out pretty clear on Saturday. He's got one of the biggest legs you'll ever find. I think he pulled a 52-yard field goal and put it up in the daggum seats, but it was 10 feet wide left. He ended up missing 2 of them. So I think we know going into next season, and I think we knew, but I think we really know, right? There's knowing, and now there's really knowing is what my coach used to say. Camarda, not a field goal kicker. Jack Podlesny, pretty good, right? Pretty accurate. I honestly compare him a lot to, and I know he was a superstar for a long time, so it's going to sound weird, but he reminds me a lot of Rodrigo Blankenship, right? Not a huge leg, not a guy that's going to be lining up from 55 and having you feel good about it, But anytime inside of 50, when he walks out on the field, you think you've got a pretty daggone good shot of making a field goal. That's important. Accuracy at the quarterback position is important. It's super important at the field goal kicking position. I don't care if you can kick it a country mile. If you don't know where you're kicking it, it don't matter. And I thought Jake Camarda kind of removed himself from these field goal kicking duties. Now, I'm sure Kirby will keep it some type of active competition throughout the year because that's just what he does, right? He's a competitionaholic, so he's not just going to let somebody take over the position and not allow them to compete or force them to compete on a day in, day out basis. So Camarda's probably still going to kick field goals, but he is a punter, and Saturday proved that, and he's still a pretty good punter. So he was one of my losers. We'll take another winner right here is Carson Beck, right? And again, if you've been on the Patreon service or really just this is how good of a spring Carson Beck had. Everybody heard good news about Carson Beck. Literally everybody. The local gas station attendant down there in Athens was hearing how good Carson Beck's spring camp was. So he confirmed all of the rumors and all of the sourcing and all of the talk out of camp about how this young man's been playing. And kudos to that guy, right? I mean, a freshman year that was almost completely silent. I mean, there's no word out of the Carson Beck camp. What he was doing at practice. There was no ups, no downs, just kind of a meddling year. Didn't really hear a whole lot about him. I heard some things here and now and then, but going into this offseason, it was, we got a new Carson. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened, but I'm not here to tell you. He turned a leaf this offseason, and it didn't have anything to do. It probably had a little bit to do with Brock Vandagriff showing up on campus, but it was about this young man not only getting comfortable in the playbook, getting comfortable in the system, getting comfortable on campus, but just getting comfortable with college football in general, right? We've talked about it before on this show. There is a real maturation process when it comes to going from high school football to college football, as you would expect. But when you're a quarterback, it's that times 100, right? Because not only are you adjusting to college life, not only are you adjusting to, 5 a.m. weights, 6 a.m. meetings, 7 a.m., stretch and conditioning or whatever, rehab or whatever it is, and then 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock class, and then, oh, wait, we're back in the facility at noon. What's going on here? We haven't even practiced yet today, and I've been up for about 7 hours. College football is a big culture shock to a lot of people that aren't really expecting. If they haven't been forewarned, if there's no one actually telling them, hey, look, this is what you've actually got coming your way, then it can be a bit of a culture shock, especially going in there, like I said, being a quarterback in Athens. Okay, it's a lot. Now he's comfortable. He knows how to address it as a professional, and he knows the playbook. And that's a very, very important thing for a quarterback. It allows you to make your decisions quickly, right? And I thought that's what you saw from Carson. There was very little hesitancy with his game on Saturday, which was what we saw last year. I know we didn't see it publicly, right? Didn't play a whole lot, and damn sure didn't throw the ball a whole lot last year. So didn't really get to see it in action, but the word out of Athens last year was that, hey, he's still kind of figuring it out. Well, now he has figured it out and came out and played really, really well and confirmed all of those things that we heard this spring. So I thought Carson was not only a big winner this spring or this G-Day, but this spring entirely and this offseason as a whole. I think as you enter the 2021 season, you should feel really, really comfortable about where you are at the 1 and 2 spot. And even if you really wanted to talk about it, Stetson at that 3 spot. It's some really stable quarterback play for the University of Georgia. And obviously Vandagriff flashed all the things that we thought he was going to flash. Still processing the playbook. That is the terminology that I will continue to use until word comes out that he is comfortable and understands it. Look, guys, they ran quite literally, and we're going to talk about it here in a second. They didn't run a whole lot of stuff Saturday, not a whole lot, but they have installed a whole bunch this spring. So it's a lot. It's like trying to drink out of a fire hose when it comes to learning a playbook this big and this complex, in a short amount of time. Because, a lot of these college programs, they're not really doing play calls like NFL teams are, where it's formation, concept, tags, motions. Okay, so what I mean by that is what we're lining up in, right? Example, pro right. Okay, what the concept is, 37 power or 36 power. Okay, what the motions are. Okay, we got Z waggle. Okay, what the tag is. We got an X hitch, right? Or an X free or X9, right? To tag the play if we want to go freelance at the line of scrimmage, things like that. And then God forbid you throw in multiple plays in there, and then you've got a whole jumbled mess up there in your head. And the difference is in the NFL, Sean McVay sitting there and going, all right, we got pro right, 36 power, Z waggle, X hitch on one-on-one. And it's right in his headset, and he regurgitates it right there to his offensive unit. It's not how it is in college. It's a whole bunch of signals coming in from the sideline, and that quarterback has to process all that information. It's a lot. So let's let him, progress in this offense before we even make any decisions about whether or not Brock was a winner or a loser yesterday or Saturday. I'm going to keep saying yesterday the remainder of the night. So just bear with me there. I thought Carson, of all the quarterbacks, because we knew what JT Daniels was going to do. We knew for the better part what Stetson Bennett was going to do. And we're still waiting on Brock Vandagriff to absolutely absorb what's going on in college life, similar to the way we had to wait on Carson Beck a year ago. So I thought Beck was the biggest winner this spring out of the quarterback room. Now, my loser, right? I told you I was in one of these losers departments. I am a loser for one of my takes. And it also has a winner sprung off of it. I've been telling you all, I had I didn't explain it correctly, but I had what I call the amphibian theory. And I'll try to explain it better now because the Discord guy's been absolutely jumping down my throat about this one. My amphibian theory is what I talked about with Broderick Jones. Basically what I told you or tried to tell you was playing left tackles like living in water. Playing right tackles like living on land. They're two totally different species, if you will, of offensive line play. And they're very uncomfortable if you don't know how to do them both, if you're not amphibious, or as people continue to tell me, ambidextrous, right? Okay, so if you cannot live on land and water, you can't play both, if you know what I mean. So what I thought, based off the in-person evaluation of seeing Broderick throughout high school, knowing his offensive line trainers throughout high school, seeing him work out on an individual level, the dude, like when I tell you he didn't look like he could walk and chew gum playing on the right tackle spot, he didn't look like he could walk and chew gum. One of the most athletic, physically gifted individuals I've ever seen looked completely out of place at right tackle just a little over a year ago at this time. Now he's out there handling his business at right tackle. So if I'm a loser for my take, that means there has to be a winner for the development of this young man. And that goes directly to Matt Luke. Okay, for Matt Luke to turn Broderick Jones from a 6'6", 280-ish odd pound left tackle into a 6'6", 315-ish, 320-ish pound legitimate right tackle that can hold water against the likes of Adam Anderson, Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, etc. That's a pretty damn good job of development, right? That is a sign that your offensive line coach, A, knows what he's doing and can tell Brooks to go shove it. B, is really good at what he's doing, right? I think that's the same point. It tells you that your offensive line coach can develop talent, is what I'm telling you. So I'm glad to see that as an offensive line guru, if you will, even though my take was trash. It was dog water, as the Discord would say. My Broderick Jones take is an absolute loser from this spring practice, but that's okay. I still 100% believe, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, still 100% believe that if Jamari Sawyer is playing tackle instead of guard, Georgia is not in trouble next year, but they are not the ultimate version of themselves up front on that offensive line. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another one of my winners, Todd Monken, man. For Monken to come out and put up, 28 and 23 is 51 points. For him to come up and put 51 points with a running clock in the entire second half with week one install, which is what sources told me it was, hey, look, we installed this stuff week one of spring. It's all we're running. We are not going to show anything else. It's all we are running. We are running week one install, both offensively and defensively. For him to come out and only run the basics, right? Only run the simplest of stuff that he has in his offense. Really, the only motions you even saw were the running back running out of the backfield. Didn't see a whole bunch of motions. Didn't see a whole bunch of trickery. Didn't see a whole bunch of man beaters, zone beaters, none of that stuff. It was basic lineup, play offense. And they scored a whole bunch of points. They drove the ball down the field. They were explosive throughout the day. That is a win for your offensive coordinator. For him to take his basic of basics, right? His cheeseburger, plain, no ketchup, no mustard, no pickle, no onion, and go out there and score 51 points against a relatively strong defense, though they are still working some kinks out. And again, we'll talk about a little bit of that later. That's a testament to your offensive coordinator. That dude was in his bag, but was really only scraping the surface of what's in that tool bag. So that was impressive for me. I thought Todd Monken was a big winner on G-Day. Another loss, a loser, man, that offensive line. And again, if you're a subscriber of the Patreon, patreon.com/Brooks Austin, the fact that the offensive line got beat like a drum on Saturday would have been no surprise to you. I've been telling my guys over there on Patreon and in the Discord all spring. Look, half of it has to do with the fact that Georgia's front seven is too deep, like literally too deep. Like they got two quality guys at each specific position, and they're SEC quality at each position. But not only that, that starting front seven is absolutely absurd. You could make the argument that it is one of the best, if not the best, front sevens in the country. Okay, so yeah, half of it was that, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, Adam Anderson, Nolan Smith, they're good football players. Don't get it twisted. That was half of it. The other half of it is this offensive line is not ready. Because I'll go ahead and tell you, look, you think Georgia's front seven's good? And they are. Clemson's front seven is as good, if not better. If you were to make the argument that Georgia's got the best front seven in the country, you got to turn right around and face Clemson's, front seven and see what they got, because they're loaded. Okay, Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee played at an all ACC level last year as true freshmen. Guess what? They're coming back bigger, badder, and better than ever. So that front seven against Clemson is going to be as good, if not better, than what they saw Saturday in G-Day. And they looked very, very porous on that offensive line on Saturday. And again, you wouldn't be shocked, as SSL's in the comments over there saying, you've been known this. Yeah, you would have known this for a while. You wouldn't have gone into Saturday expecting Georgia's offensive line to be a strong point, because it hadn't been all spring. They've pretty much been getting manhandled up front, especially in the passing game, where this was a unit last year that I felt did a very good job of keeping their quarterbacks clean. They did not do as much during G-Day on Saturday. So that was a big loser for me. Another loser, and we'll save him for last. Big winner, health, right? You stayed injury free. We started the show with that earlier today or earlier in the show. And I thought Kirby said it best in postgame. And another one of my takes that was wrong. I told you Kirby might come out and run the ball 60 times just to get out of there. But what I didn't realize was, and I should have, hey, you're a little more injury prone if you come out and you're a run heavy football team, right? Establish physicality, get out there, bump heads, run your head against the wall, do stuff like that. You're more prone to get guys hurt doing stuff like that. So Georgia came out, they threw the piss out the ball. I mean, they threw it all over the field. And that was by design. If you listen to Kirby's post-game or post-scrimmage press conference, that's what he talked about. He said, look, we didn't want to come out and bang that much. We wanted to stay injury-free. And the best way to do that is to get the ball out in space, right? Make guys play in alleys and in much more one-on-one situation type stuff, not necessarily 7v7. You see what I'm saying? When you're doing inside run stuff all the day, all the damn day, all the time, you're banging and clanging constantly in that front seven. Whereas if we're pass proing all day and offensive linemen are backing up, defensive linemen are aggressive, playing upfield, things like that, you're going to be a lot less injury prone. You're going to put yourself at less risk, essentially. And I thought Kirby and his staff did a great job making sure that they got out of G-Day completely unscathed. And yeah, we'll save the Tate Ratledge stuff for the end of the show. We'll talk about that a little bit later as Cruz the Wild Dog 3427. What a name. Cruz, we'll get to Ratledge here in a little bit in terms of where I think what they should do offensive line wise, where these holes still are. We already talked about A.D. Mitchell, both winner and loser. Okay, I put him in the both category for several reasons. Dan Jackson's a great story, an absolute great story for this University of Georgia football team, and he's bona fide. Don't get it wrong. The kid out of West Hall is a legitimate sub 4.4 runner. He can absolutely fly. Real smart football player. Got some good ball skills as he put on display. Had some really, really high shining moments on Saturday. Interception where he tracked the ball excellently over his shoulder. A little basket catch, a little Willie Mays-esque type of interception. But he did get absolutely brutalized by Darnell Washington, okay? And he did get absolutely brutalized by Kendall Milton. That's okay, okay? That's 100% okay, because here's why. I don't believe Georgia's been full live, but maybe, 2 hours during the entire spring scrimmage or spring period, right? They did an hour in the first scrimmage, an hour in the second scrimmage, maybe an hour and a half both days, where they were really like, buckle up, buckle your chin straps. We're out here to play some football, tackle to the ground type stuff. And then you get out there to G-Day, and yeah, Heck yeah, I'm starting with the twos right now. I'm going to walk on. Ain't nobody ever gave me no credit. So I'm going to go out here and I'm going to hit Darnell Washington right in the midsection. Not the plan, man. Not a good plan to go up. Same thing with Kendall. I'm going to go up there and hit Kendall Milton dead in the chest. Not the plan, my guy. Let's attack the knees. Let's attack the shins, right? Those are two really big jokers that you're trying to tackle in that form. So I thought Dan had a great day, but he did get baptized just a few times. So for what it's worth, my last loser of the night, I think you guys might like this one considering how we opened. Brett Venables has to be a big loser from Georgia's G-Day. To watch, and it goes back to that point we were talking about with Monken, to watch Georgia's offense come out and look really good, like really good. The quarterbacks look absolutely comfortable, balls on time, despite all the wide receivers out, weapons still making plays, right? Demetrius Robinson getting loose, Karis Jackson getting loose, A.D. Mitchell getting loose, Lad McConkey even showing up. The tight ends having a great day. For that to happen on a G-Day day where they've absolutely banged up, offensive line's not playing great, but still they're explosive. Like, that's tough, man. If you're Clemson's defense coordinator sitting there going, well, this is all I got. This is all they're doing, and they're still explosive. I got to see these guys September 4th, and I still don't know what I'm getting. I still have no answers as to what I should game plan for. They didn't show me anything new, and yet they're still driving the ball down the field against SEC quality defenders and corners, for that matter, and defensive backs that Clemson was in on, right? Clemson was recruiting a lot of those guys that play for Georgia. So to watch Georgia's offense look that good, despite how little they were doing offensively, that's got to, make you shiver in your boots just a little bit if you're Brett Venables, even though, great defense coordinator. He'll be all right. He'll figure it out, and they'll be okay. I'm sure it'll be a highly contested football game. I'm not here to say that Georgia is far better than Clemson, and spring scrimmages showed that. It's the stupidest take I've ever heard. Spring scrimmages don't show much. They show a glimpse. They show a look at what it might be or what it could be. There's still a whole lot of questions on both of these rosters heading into September 4th. I'm not giving you any type of, predictions on that Clemson game until probably September 2nd or 3rd. There's no point. One major injury in spring or in fall camp could absolutely throw a wrench into everything, right? One more George Pickens-esque injury on Georgia's roster. Hello, they're back shuffling and trying to find answers. Same thing at Clemson. One big injury. God forbid DJ Uiagalelei goes down during fall camp. What's going to happen then? P. Rich, again, guys, hold on to the questions. I got this answered, okay? And again, if you want to know what happened to Nyland Green, why he didn't play Saturday, you would already know that if you signed up for the Patreon account. It was up Saturday afternoon, literally before the game ended. The nugget about Nyland Green was up on Patreon. You would have already known. So, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. A lot of these questions, especially inside intel stuff that you guys ask on here, those guys have known it for days on end before it even reaches the comment section here on YouTube. So those are my winners and losers. There was more, man. There was a lot of good football play out there on Saturday. I thought Marlon Dean looked really, really good. 3-star, non-SI All-American, non-SI 99 guy, a slept-on individual, 6'5", 300 pounds, playing defensive end, and was repping with the ones group, right? He was spelling Trayvon Walker at that defensive end role for a freshman early enrollee that nobody talked about, right? Nobody talked about. As a matter of fact, a lot of these guys in these comment section, some of you guys in the viewership might even remember, oh, yeah, that's right. Georgia did sign a guy by the name of Marlon Dean from Elbert County, Georgia, by way of IMG Academy. That's right, they did. Yeah, really good football player, going to be a ball player for Georgia for the foreseeable future, and looked really, really good on Saturday, just in terms of his physical presence, right? Just in terms of looking the part. To me, that's a very important benchmark for freshmen. Do you at least fit in? Do you at least look the part? Do you look like you belong there on the field with those monsters and those grown men? Because that's what they are. I didn't write him on the notes, but I thought Amarius Mims had a pretty good day. We'll talk about it a lot more this week over on Patreon as we progress into film study. I've rewatched the show or rewatched the G-Day events, but haven't gone into a deep dive and took the notes yet. So we will get that out as soon as possible. Probably be doing it a little bit tonight after tonight's show, hanging out in the Discord lounge. We might watch it a little bit together. But, Georgia as spring practice comes to a close, the injuries kind of the fire hose of injuries kind of got cut off, late in spring practice, which was good. Georgia needed it bad. They needed to stay healthy after the Jermaine Burton injury. So after that happened, they kind of avoided injury. I know Justin Robinson banged up his knee a little bit. Not a major issue. He will be okay. So apart from that, after the Burton injury, they kind of got away from the injury bug. And a lot of that probably was what was going on in practice, even though from what I was told, they didn't really tone it down much. Wasn't much fear of more injury. They were just like, hey, it's football. It's football, guys. We got to play. And that was one of my topics in MBR. Is like, man, injuries happen. When you haven't played football all offseason and you get out there and you're running full go and you're juiced up and you're fighting for playing time, guys around you are fighting for playing time. Coaches are fighting for their jobs, and new coaches like Jamil Adai are out there trying to prove their point with their corners and things like that. And Matt Luke's trying to find his combination. You get the point. Combination of guys. There's going to be some injuries, and luckily for Georgia, they avoided most of them moving forward. But no, they still got a bunch of, not a bunch, but they still got some holes to fill, right? And we'll start with the offensive line group. Actually, we'll start with the fact that Georgia has room on their roster, okay? I don't know the exact number of scholarships they have available because, to be honest with you, nobody's out here giving that information out. Like, Georgia sources are not going to tell me how many scholarships they have directly available. If I were to have to sit down and count through them, I could probably figure it out. And based off my numbers recently doing it, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, they're looking at, at least one, maybe two spots still available to go get guys in the portal. But before we get into that, you have to understand that portal hunting at Georgia is different than 95% of college football programs across this country. Georgia is not burning a scholarship opportunity on individuals that will not come in and immediately impact their roster. Okay? It's not going to happen. If you're just a depth piece, they're not going to burn a recruiting spot in that 2022 class just to add depth. That's not what it's about. That is not what the portal for the University of Georgia is there for. The portal at the University of Georgia is there for impact players. Eli Wolf in 2019 had to have him. Charlie Warner was the only experienced tight end in that room. Their offensive coordinator and Coley at that point, guess what? 12 personnel offensive coordinator. You needed a second starting tight end. They went out and got it. Same season, they needed a wide receiver and an impact one. James Coley had a report with Lawrence Cager back to their days at Miami together. Brought him in. Impact guy, right? Lawrence Cager impacted that roster from day one when he stepped on campus. Flash forward 2020, guess what? They needed quarterback help. They knew it. So they went and got him, right? Went and got Jamie Newman, didn't play. Guess what? Got even more of them. Went and got JT Daniels and stuff like that. So it's about impact players on their roster. And right now, I'll be 100% honest with you. According to the people I talked to, there is not a player in that portal right now, despite the fact that Georgia has done their research on almost every single one of them that's in that portal right now. I know it's a lot. Sounds like a lot, right? That's why you got 5,000 defense and offensive analysts on your staff, recruiting staffers, recruiting coordinators, yada, 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 film grunts, all that stuff. That's why you have those people to do extensive research on every potential lead in terms of additions to your roster and how you go about roster management. They've done all their research, and I'll tell you, there's not an impact guy in that roster or in that portal right now. There was one impact guy in that portal this offseason. It was Tyke Smith. And guess what? He's coming to Athens. So that's the way it goes for Georgia. So where these holes are, they might have to just fill them internally. Okay. They're going to have to go out and fill them internally. So do we have Bama trolls up in here? Man, you guys really got nothing better to do. I'm sorry. I appreciate you for being here. You're blowing the comment section up, but you're distracting my lovely viewers. So if you could, just tone it down, man. Nobody's here to talk Bama. You ain't hear me say a word about Bama. I don't care. They're not on Georgia's roster. My audience doesn't care. My audience does not care until SEC championship game, if that happens. Okay, so take your Alabama stuff, all right? Take your Alabama stuff, all right, and go somewhere else, all right? Before I wear a salmon pink suit out here, okay, and start MFing everybody out here, all right? So go on with your bad self. Or just hang out and be cool, man. Be cordial. Don't be out here, all right? Let's see how many times I said all right. Anyways, still got some holes to fill, okay? A lot of holes to fill. One of them, offensive line-wise, we talked about it, okay? Georgia got beat all over the place. Interior, exterior, guards, centers, tackles. Every single one of them got whooped at some point in this football or in this scrimmage on Saturday. Again, a lot of that, half of that has to do with the fact that the defensive guys they're going against are really good football players. But the other half of that is that they still have room to grow offensively. And here's my take, and I've been on this take for a while. As much as well at times as Jamari Sawyer played at tackle last year, he is not the long-term answer at tackle, in my opinion. He does not carry the physical profile of a tackle. He does not carry the physical athleticism of a tackle. He does not carry the high-end ceiling of a top 5 college football playoff contending football team at the tackle position. But you know what he does? He makes a damn good, like, top 75 pick in the NFL draft type of guard. Okay, that's what he is. It's what he's going to play on the next level. He's 6'3.5", 330 some odd pounds, and is a road grader. He's not made to go backwards, even though he can. Okay, so he may be serviceable at left tackle, but Georgia's ceiling as an offensive line includes Jamari Sawyer at guard. So when Jalen Carter, Devontae Wyatt are somewhat abusing Tate Ratledge, they should be. He's not quite ready to play. Still playing a little slow, still absorbing that playbook like we were talking about with the young quarterback. Same thing for young offensive linemen. If it doesn't click like this, and for some people it don't, then you're going to play slow for a while until you get ready. So I think Georgia's best iteration of their offensive line is figuring out, hey, what is our answer at left tackle? And can we please put Jamari Sawyer back at guard and move Justin Schaefer back to right guard? If that's the case, you shore up your interior offensive line and you go find a left tackle. Whether that is, Broderick Jones playing left tackle, or whether that's Warren McClendon flipping over and playing left tackle, or whether it's Xavier Truss figuring it out. And I don't think he played terrible, but as of right now, it doesn't appear that they believe he's the answer, or else they wouldn't be rotating in Jamari Sawyer at left tackle during G-Day. So as much as it may seem like a sure thing, as much as it may seem like an insurance policy for Georgia in terms of their offensive line, to be able to play Jamari Sawyer at left tackle, again, the best iteration of their offense is him playing guard, okay? And maybe even center, okay? Their best iteration is to shore up that interior of that offensive line and putting a stud out there left tackle and letting them figure it out, okay? So that's what they did last year with Jamari. They entered a college football season in the SEC, preseason ranked 5th or whatever they were, with a guy at left tackle who had never played left tackle. And guess what? He figured it out. They did enough to get, that to a passing grade at least. It wasn't an A+, but it was a passing grade. And if that's what it ends up being this year, that's fine. But playing Jamari at left tackle weakens you on the interior, in my opinion. So figure that out. That is a hole that they've got to figure out. An offensive line in general, they've got to shore that up, get those guys much, much better offensive line-wise. Now, another one is obviously the cornerback room. And I thought they played okay, but if there is a need for Georgia to do, and Kirby hit on it during his press conference, was they've got to get better at playing zone. And who told you they were going to play a lot of zone this year? I don't know. Maybe he's wearing green sitting in front of a jersey with a microphone in his face. It was me. I told you that they're going to have to play more traditional 3-4 this year. They don't have 5 solid defensive backs right now, today. They haven't figured out their corner spot yet, okay? So if you don't have 5 solid, guaranteed defensive backs, you can't play nickel defense. You can try, but you dang sure can't play man-to-man nickel defense. And when you hear Kirby Smart say after G-Day that we've got to get better at playing zone defense, that's exactly why. Because he doesn't want to leave guys on islands anymore. He doesn't want to play as much man-to-man defense as they have in the past. Okay, so it's what happens when you have a mass exodus at the defensive back position. But I think one thing I've learned from covering Kirby Smart is that he's as adaptive as any coach that I've covered or any coach that I've watched closely. He knows year in, year out, it's not about sticking to the game plan and making your roster fit the game plan or the scheme or the philosophy. It's about adapting your philosophy, your game plan, your strategy to fit the Jimmies and the Joes, right? Transform the X's and O's to match your Jimmies and your Joes. Well, your Jimmies and Joes right now are light as can be at the defensive backfield. But what you got is really, really solid outside backer play, and you've got really, really solid interior and front seven, defensive line, and linebacker play. So lean on that. But leaning on that requires a lot more zone coverage behind it. So they've got to get better at that. But again, it's just something that they haven't been doing a lot of. So we'll see if that just continues to get better throughout the offseason. Outside of that, I don't see a ton of holes, right? That maybe they go out and try to find some type of difference maker at the wide receiver position to try to alleviate some of those pressures. But guys, there's a lot coming, right? There's a lot coming back. You do have Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, who, if you remember, as he got comfortable, right? And people forget this, it took George Pickens 5 or 6 games to really get comfortable as a true freshman. And then you saw in the Sugar Bowl what the ultimate ceiling looks like for that young man. I felt Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint was on the same exact, or at least a similar path a year ago. He was finally getting his feet wet, finally getting his opportunity. And it just so happened it was because George was out. It was just now getting his opportunity, was just now showing out and actually putting it onto a game day, onto a Saturday, what everybody had known for a long time in terms of how immensely talented this young man is. And then, boom, injury, season-ending injury. So that's something that with him coming back, Justin Robinson's going to be there, Jermaine Burton's going to be there, Dominic Blaylock's. You got plenty of weapons at the wide receiver position. Do you have the guy that entering this season may or may not have been on a Biletnikoff Award watch list? No, he's not there. He's not going to be there for the foreseeable future. So it's going to be okay. But, guys, there's not a George Pickens hanging around in the portal, at least not right now. Maybe there's a disgruntled athlete that leaves whatever school he's at now. And maybe that's the case at wide receiver, or maybe there's a corner that enters the portal eventually. Those guys are popping in there, out, back and forth eventually. I always do this. I apologize, Marlon. It is rose me. I apologize. It's a habit, man. Anyways, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of weapons at that wide receiver position that are ultimately going to be there come August, right? And they're going to get comfortable and they're going to be ready to ball. So, those are the only really holes that I see, right? You need another corner, and you need another legit corner, a bona fide one, but there's not one of those right now. A lot of people will throw the name out, De'Aaron Kendrick. We'll see. I mean, we will absolutely see. I've been told that, there's a big, I'm not going to say misconception, but there is a narrative that Georgia is, heavily against any type of quote unquote character issues. But if you really look at what it's a character versus talent, seesaw. Does his talent outweigh his character concerns? Because if so, they're always going to take it and they'll deal with the character concerns. Whereas a place like Clemson, if the talent's through the roof, it don't matter if there's a smidge of character concerns. That's the way they roll. Whereas Kirby, Saban, Orgeron, if you will, they're more coaches that are prone to believe that, hey, we'll get him in here. We'll be okay. We'll be able to manage it. And they've done a really good job over the years of managing these quote unquote character issues. I'm not one to sit here and say that a 20-year-old kid who's making mistakes has a character issue, whatever. If the talent outweighs the character issue, schools like Georgia and programs like Georgia will always, more times than not, take a chance on you and give you yet another opportunity. So that's where we're at in terms of holes to fill, winners and losers. Now, the best part of the show, Q&A. So start firing off them questions. I told you to hold your questions. So now I got to scroll up, look for question marks, all that good stuff. Start loading them things up. While we're here, please hit that thumbs up, all that good stuff over there on YouTube. If you want to share it, wherever you want to share it, that's fine. Guys, I see a Brooks with a question mark up here. Winners, losers, Bama. Guys, it's just too much. I know there was a Dominic Blaylock question up in here earlier. I will tell you that Dominic has been running in a straight line for quite a while. They're trying to get him back for Clemson. I don't know how he feels about getting ready for Clemson. Not that he's gung shy or anything like that, but you can just imagine that, like, look, man, after 2 knee injuries, you kind of want to make sure you're 100%, like you've actually had gameplay and actually been tackled and all that good stuff before you go out there and play what could be the number 1 team in the country come that year. So it's a lot. Okay. Oh, Nyland Green question. Go to the Patreon. I'm not gonna say it violates HIPAA laws, but yeah, go read. It's not for me to be out here on a public forum on YouTube out here telling you folks. If you want to know why Nyland Green didn't play in the scrimmage, hit up or hit up the Patreon account. How is Chaz Chambliss? Okay, so the thing about Chambliss, and the rest of the time you will hear the number one thing about him is his effort level, right? He's got an insane motor, but doesn't disengage very well at this point in his college career, and that's to be expected. Once an offensive lineman gets his hands on Chaz, the ability to shed that block is questionable at this point in his career, as it should be. But I'm here to tell you that I don't know if it ever is solved, if it's ever elite at it, right? Azeez Ojulari's ability to shed blocks, a lot of it has to do with speed and power, but a good portion of it had to do with his arm length, right? If I'm longer than you, if I can get my hands on you before you get your hands on me, I'm more prone to shed that block as a defensive lineman. Whereas Chaz doesn't really have, 34-inch arms or whatever it is. Much more concise, much more of a compact football player. Not one of these guys that's ever going to win in terms of length. And for that matter, Nolan Smith is limited lengthwise. When his NFL Combine numbers come out, whenever he has a pro day or goes to an NFL Combine, you'll find out they're like, oh, Nolan Smith wasn't as big as we all thought he was, okay? Great football player, don't get me wrong, extremely tough against the run, great at the point of the attack in terms of against counter, power, things like that when he's got to take on lead blockers. But when he's out on an edge and he is responsible for setting said edge, keeping his outside arm free, and keeping guys from bouncing plays outside, you will see him over and over and over again on tape get beat in that aspect. And a lot of that has to do with a lack of length. Same thing with Chaz. It's a lack of length, a lack of top-end athleticism. But for all of that, it doesn't really matter if you're an insane person when it comes to your work ethic, right? I know quarterback's a completely different position, but what's made Tom Brady the GOAT is his work ethic, his attention to detail, his ability to go the extra mile, to do things that you don't want to do, to be great. It's the same thing for this kid. Within weeks of him being on campus, I was going to the Patreon account telling you that sources were telling me hardest working dude on the roster, bar none, hardest working dude on the roster. That's really, really hard to do as a true freshman. He's going to get playing time this year because Kirby rewards that type of stuff. If you've ever watched him, if you've followed him for a long time, you know that he loves these types of dudes. So there you go. How many touches? Hold on. Sorry, we got a whole bunch in here. How many times will 3 tight ends line up on the field this season? Whew, that's a lot. 3 tight ends is a ton. But I will tell you this, that if you go back and, there's player personnel data, big analytics guy here, right? I should say the analytics guy, not the film guy. But no, there are advanced analytics in terms of guys that go out of their way to track formations and personnel packages for NFL teams. And if you go back and look at, Tampa Bay's formation or personnel packages during the years that Todd Monken was there, when he had Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, and some other guy playing tight end out there at Tampa, he did run 13 personnel 4 or 5 times a game. But you're not going to see it a ton. I don't think you see it at all, actually, this year, just because, again, you got way too many weapons out there at the wide receiver position, despite all the injuries, to just be out here running 3 tight ends. Okay, so run 2 and get 2 better weapons on the field with them. Who you got starting at left tackle? Right now, it looks like Jamari Sawyer. They don't have an answer. I'm not fond of it, as we laid it out earlier. Not fond of it, but it is what it is. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. He's at least good enough to be out there. Let's see. How many touches does Kendall Milton get a game this year? I hope it's at least 15. I know that's a lot. There's a lot of touches for that young man. But if you noticed on Saturday, dude is picking up blitz pickup really well. I think he had one legitimate miss, like a oops, in terms of missed assignments on the pass protection. So you cannot play extended roles for Georgia under Kirby Smart at the running back position until you can consistently, on a down in and down out basis, pass protect. And he's getting there. Okay, if you remember, or if you saw Chris Milton, his dad's tweet, old father of ballers, shout out to Chris. If you saw his tweet the other day, the first thing he mentioned was pass protection. Okay, so that's the important thing for Kendall, and he's getting much better at it. We already hit this one. Oh, I guess we're out of questions. Nobody has questions to ask. If that's the point, or if that's where we're at, then that's where we're at. We got guys in there talking back and forth to each other. That's all good. Appreciate y'all for being here. Oh, here we go. Is cornerback the only position UGA is looking at in the portal? I told the Patreon guys this a couple weeks back. Believe it or not, Georgia pretty much does their research on everybody that's in there. So yeah, they're doing research on corners. They're doing research on wide receivers. Heck, last year I was told that they were actually like seriously looking at quarterbacks just in case, right? Just in case Daniels ultimately upped and left for the NFL draft. So they do extensive research on just about everybody that's up in there. Can D-Rob finally show out this year? Yeah, but I mean, for D-Rob, it's more about matter of opportunity, right? I think we're talking, 15, 16 catches a year ago. It's not a big like rep share or a big target share for him. Now this year, yeah, could have much more in terms of his target share. So that's always good. Again, it's like what we talked about earlier in the show with AD Mitchell. How much of it was him really like just out there beast moding folks, and how much of it was him actually, just getting an opportunity to get a bunch of balls. I think it's a combination of both. Here we go. Let's look for some more. Do you see a wide receiver / running back reaching 1,000 yards? I was on record saying there would be two 1,200-yard receivers when George was around. But I'm not going to back off of a lot of those. I said JT Daniels is going to throw for 4,500 yards this year. That was my tweet after Saturday's scrimmage. I still stand by it. Obviously, it's only been 48 hours. If JT Daniels is throwing for 4,500 yards and 50 touchdowns, or 45 plus touchdowns, like I predicted, then yeah, you're going to have a 1,000-yard receiver, at least one. And my money, my guaranteed bet on that would be Jermaine Burton if I had to put the mortgage on it. In terms of a running back, yeah, I mean, Zamir was on pace to go over 1,000 yards last year in a full season, not in a 10-game season, regular season that is. But I think it's gonna be harder this year because you're gonna have to get Kenny McIntosh touches. You're absolutely gonna have to get Kendall Milton touches. So I think, if Georgia comes out next year and they have, two running backs at 800, 900 yards, and a third running back at 700 yards, and another running back in James Cook at like 400 with, maybe a couple hundred yards receiving, then you've won, right? You've done what you're supposed to do at the running back position. Smile Mondon, how much playing time does he get? It's going to be limited at the linebacker position this year, just because they're so deep, right? Ryan Davis is probably going to get on the field just a little bit earlier than Smile. That linebacker position is very, very tough. Especially for a young man like Smile, who hasn't really played traditional inside backer for a long time. Okay, over at Paulding County, they did a lot of varied looks with him. They did a lot of different stuff with him. Not a lot of it was him reading guards and coming downhill and filling holes and stuff like that. He can do it. He showed that Saturday. I thought the best thing that Smile did on Saturday, and again, it goes back to that point earlier in the show where we talked about guys just looking the part, right? He 1,000% looks the part as a linebacker. So I thought that was very, very important. But in terms of playing the inside linebacker position, how much PT does he get this year? Very minimal. Probably in blowout situations, but he's going to play a lot of special teams. Something Smile and I actually talked about before his commitment to Georgia. He was, getting my kind of opinion on what I thought about Georgia and about the different schools he was considering. And I told him, I was like, look, you're not ready to play in the SEC yet. That's okay. But if you go to Georgia, you're going to have to play special teams. And his immediate response was, oh, dude, I love playing special teams. I played special teams at Paulding County. I'm more than ready to go out there and play special teams. So there you go. He's going to play a lot of special teams this year, and he's going to be damn good at it. He's probably pound for pound overall one of the best overall athletes that Georgia has on his roster, and you can't keep that guy off the field. You got to get him in one of your three phases, and they'll get him in that special teams phase. Will you teach me to football? Robert, I think I'm kind of doing that. That's kind of my gig. It's kind of my bag. Do you think we'll use two-back sets this season? If you go back and look at the film of Monken during his Cleveland days, and everybody was like, oh, not offensive. He wasn't a play caller, just offensive coordinator. Still designing the plays, still designing the personnel packages. So that being said, they ran a lot of two-back sets when Kareem Hunt got off of his suspension in 2019 up there in Cleveland, and they ran a lot of screens out of it. If you go back to his days at Southern Miss, Ito Rochelle, Jalen Richard, two NFL backs on a Southern Miss roster in non-Power 5 football, both those guys still playing on Sundays. They ran a lot of two-back sets there. So, yeah, you might see a little bit more of it. I thought you were going to see a lot more of it last year than you actually got. But a lot of what two-back sets provide you is only complemented by having a mobile threat at the quarterback position. Okay, so it turns into essentially 3 running backs back there. That's not the case with Georgia with JT Daniels at the helm. It was when they were practicing with Jamie Newman prior to him opting out of the football season. I had sources telling me that, yeah, they were in wishbone pistol sets, running, 22 personnel in goal line situations and really getting after it and doing some heavy read option and triple option type stuff out of run sets in the red zone. It's not what they did at all last year because they didn't have a threat at the quarterback position to really pound the rock. That'll change in a couple of years as Brock Vandagriff grows in this system and has an opportunity to play. In terms of how did Mondon play on G-Day, I'll be honest with you, it's something that I'm going to have to go back. I'll go back throughout this offseason and watch each individual position outside of corner and safety because you can't see them on the TV copy. So don't be out here dropping takes on corners and safeties because we all know you ain't see nothing because you can't see them. They leave the screen in 2 steps. So ain't going to be doing a whole lot of that. But I did see Mondon, just the initial upon first glance was he looks comfortable, okay? He did some good things in terms of his reads. He was in the right place at the right time, which means he's adapting to the slants, the stunts, the run game fits, all that good stuff that is a requirement to play linebacker at Georgia under Kirby Smart. You ain't going to be out there busting gaps and stuff like that. So he did that really well, but I thought the best thing that he did on Saturday was how comfortable he looked in his drops. It's a guy that didn't drop a whole lot in high school, but the athletic profile takes over, right? If you take 100 drops, and that's all it is, if you take 100 drops and you're a supreme athlete, rep 101, you're going to look pretty good. And that's what happened Saturday. I thought he looked really, really good in his drop. 22 packages on offense. We just hit that. That's 2 backs, 2 tight ends. Maybe some goal line stuff with that. But again, I don't think you really see Monken dive into the 22 sets and the 2-back sets until he's got some type of threat at the quarterback position in terms of a run game. Can we get Derek Stingley? Not until he hits the portal. Not going to hit the portal, I don't think. Will UGA keep the pedal down this year instead of letting up? That is a question for your boy Kirby. That ain't for me. I would like to see him do it, but it's not for me. It's not for me to tell you. And it's hard. It's almost impossible to predict what's going to happen. I thought last year, it's impossible to say that Kirby did not revert back to his old habits midway through the season. It's impossible to sit here and say that. They opened the season 73 plays from scrimmage against Arkansas. 73 plays from scrimmage. By the 5th game at Kentucky, they ran the ball 43 times and ran a total of 62 snaps. It's a drastic difference, right? In 5 games, drastic difference. Now, the real question is, does Kirby revert back to the mean? I don't think so. I think he's finally out of that now because he knows he's going to have to score. That's the thing. This defense is going to give up points next year. I'm going to tell you all that right now. They're going to give up points. So don't be out here trying to fire Dan Lanning when they do, because I told you earlier in the year they were going to do it. How's Jonathan Jefferson? Put on some weight. Put on some, I guess you could call it good weight. Looks a lot bigger than he did in high school. And if you're signed up on the Patreon account, you know kind of my opinion of the profile of Jonathan Jefferson. +1, we'll see 2-back set all this year. Yeah, you'll see it a little bit this year. I'm guessing you're talking about MJ Sherman. Thought he had some really good pass rush sets on Saturday. Like really, really good. So there you go. Here we go. We'll jump to the bottom before we cut it out because we're already an hour and 5 minutes into this. You think we keep running that jumbo set with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter again, especially with our O-line having rough spots? 100%. You're going to see, all kinds of gadgets and gizmos down on the goal line this year, in my opinion, as you should. Nothing gets a big man juiced more than lining up as a fullback or lining up as a tight end or just doing anything different than anything outside of the norm, right? They were trying to have some fun Saturday, throwing a throwback pass to Marius Mims. They didn't have to go for 2. It's a damn scrimmage game. They didn't have to go for 2. They chose to just to get the young guy some fun and get some offensive linemen, some juice and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're going to see things like that, especially if they're easily, as low risk is what I'm trying to say. Brooks, was that throw to AD actually good decision to laser it in? 100%. It's what we call a hole shot. Okay. I think they're running cover 3 cloud, which essentially means they're running cover 2 down to the boundary, right? The corner has curl flat. the safety has over the top, which leaves a hole right here in the middle. Okay, when you zip that ball in, when you line that ball in, as you say, or laser it in, as you say, it's what we call a hole shot. It is the Tua Tagovailoa 2nd and 26 throw, if you recall that one. It is a staple in offensive systems nowadays. That outside release from the number one wide receiver and just absolutely ripping the ball into that window against that, what ultimately looks on one half of the field like cover 2. I know the other half of the field looks like cover 3. It's not the point. I'm not here to blow your mind. I don't have the X's and O's. I don't have the board behind me tonight. So, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Appreciate you, top dog. It's my guy right there. Y'all go holler at Harrison Reno before I hire him. How much will flex Bowers out this season? Kidneys be on the field. You're going to see them do a lot of stuff with Bowers. I think of all the players that they have that they kind of hid on Saturday, Bowers was one of them. They did the normal basic stuff with him. This season, they're going to do some intricate things with him. I guarantee you they will throw Brock Bowers a screen pass this year, and he will rip it for about 35, 40 yards. And you'll be like, oh, my God, that's a tight end? Yes, that is a tight end. He can absolutely move. Here we go. I know this is very late, but whatever happened with the corner from Clemson, heavily rumored, got in some trouble, still battling that trouble, still yet to be determined. You think we keep running that jumbo set? Oh, we already hit this one. Sorry. I'm regurgitating questions now. Who's your favorite young O-lineman coming out of G-Day? It was really only one, right? It was Amarius. Micah Morris didn't practice all spring because he had a labrum issue. And who else? Dylan Fairchild is not enrolled. Our guy Jared Wilson is not enrolled up there from the Carolinas. So it has to be Amarius Mims. It's gonna be have to go back and rewatch type of thing there to see who's actually getting beat. North of 45 sacks this year defensively. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I think if you notice Saturday, I think one thing that they did was they allowed guys to really get upfield. So that's good to see. Has Quay Walker improved? I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it. I know a lot of people saw just because he made a couple tackles, they're like, oh, he looked great. Yeah, we'll see. He does look like the real deal in that 7, though. He looks damn good in that 7. Quay Walker, not a big fan of mine, actually, so that's funny. Are you excited as I am for the QB comp next year? Yeah. Heck yeah, I'm excited. You guys are going to read every single article I write out about that. That'll be cake money. That'll be a daggone layup. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be so easy. Y'all going to be reading all that for the next, 2 or 3 years, especially when Stockton gets in there. So, yeah, I'm stoked about it. You guys shouldn't be. Bo ought to be puckered up for y'all. I'm just kidding. I think the good news is with all 3 of those guys, with Beck, Vandegrift, and Stockton when he gets there, I don't think there's a wrong decision to be made. A lot gets, talked about the quarterback position, but there is a lot more to it, right? It's about stacking a really, really good roster around those guys. We see it all the time on the NFL level where, Trevor Lawrence is great, but if he has zero help around him in Jacksonville, he's going to look like dog water, okay? Same thing for all those guys. Zach Wilson, if he goes to New York and they have nothing and the cupboard is bare for 5 years, well, then you just repeated what happened with Sam Darnold. There's so much made about what's going on at the quarterback position, but if you ain't got the guys everywhere else, then your quarterback's just going to be running for his life or throwing to nobody. So that's kind of where you're at with that. I don't think you make a bad decision on that. Last question of the night, Jay Calloway, unless we have any super chats rolled in. I think Rob was the only one on the super chat tonight. Appreciate you, Rob. I do have a free Patreon available from Rob. So if you want that, hit me up either on Twitter, email, hit up in the YouTube comments, whatever. If you want that free Patreon subscriptions. I think we had 4 donations last week, and we ended up having 5 guys that I gave them out to. So appreciate all of the donations from all the Discord guys. That's the family environment that we talk about all the time on here. But last question, here we go. Who ends the season as an All-American this year on the defense if you had to bet? If I was a gambling man, you have to start with Nakobe Dean, right, and Jordan Davis. Those are the 2 guys. But Jalen Carter and Trayvon Walker are on that track. They will be there in terms of their playing ability. I think, a lot of people are excited to see what Trayvon Walker does this year, but it's a huge year for 44. It could be such a big year that it could basically be his version of one and done. 1 year as a starter, blow it up, 10.5 sacks, 15 TFLs, whatever the numbers are. boom, first-round draft pick. Because the athletic profile is first-round draft pick, and all it really takes is one great year for an edge rusher, an edge defender like him, with so many teams running odd front defenses, in other words, 3-4s in the NFL. There's a quality aspect to having a 5 technique that looks like Trayvon Walker that can do what he does, both athletically and physically at the point of the attack in the run game. So those are my guys defensively that I would be looking out for in terms of All-American status. All right, that is it. Before you go, hit that thumbs up. And also before you go, I guess follow me on Twitter at BrooksAustinSI. I know a lot of you guys already do. Maybe you're not a Twitter guy, whatever it is, Twitter gal. That's one thing we got to get going, man. We got to get that demo just a little bit more female-based, even though majority of, I guess you could say, statistically, this isn't me, statistically, majority of football fans that, enjoy as much content as we put out, they most likely tend to be males. But, appreciate all you guys for being here. Like, subscribe, rate, review, do all that good stuff. Haven't turned any of this into a podcast format yet. I'm sure it's going to come down the road. Clay Webb was supposed to be a stud. Keyword supposed to be. Okay, Coach Egg. I know being a Georgia fan means you have to rely upon recruiting services that tell you the guys coming to your program are all world. Sometimes, and the term bust gets used a lot. You know what I don't hear? You know what I never hear? Golly, that ranking was a bust, right? Why is it always on the player? You know what I'm saying? Why isn't it on the scout that gave him the stars? So Clay Webb came into college with 5-star status, but in reality, he just probably was never meant to be that. Okay, so maybe it was a miss both on the rating and the development of the football player, a combination of them both. Is Clay Webb a worse player today than he was in high school? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, he's better a football player than he was 4 years ago. But sometimes you got to be honest about what it is, right? It's a miss from the evaluation point as much as it is a miss on the development of the player. So until we get to that point, you're going to have a lot of these questions. Where's Clay Webb? I thought he was good. Yeah, because some some yahoo told you he was good. That's fine. Wait until a coach that's actually there or he actually gets on the field to prove he's good. Okay. I hate the idea of bust. Okay, because guess what? I miss on guys all the time. Not all the time. I miss on guys occasionally. Haven't had one in a while. I miss on guys occasionally. And when that happens, like the Broderick Jones take, total miss, I'm upfront and honest with you. Okay, Broderick Jones can play right tackle. I didn't think he could. Okay. Clay Webb, someone thought he was one of the nation's best interior offensive linemen. He is not. That's a miss. Be honest about it. Just that's the way it rolls. All right, we'll see you guys later. Patreon guys, I will be in Discord for a brief little while tonight. Probably end up being here we go. Appreciate you, Stick. One of our best guys in that Discord. This guy right here, Richard. I think he drove like 2.5 hours one day just to help shoot that Dylan Lonergan pro day. So shout out to Richard. And now I've got at least I'll call it 3. I'll meet you on the other 5 on that $24.99. Which I'll hear about in Discord. Why can't I get a whole number? So I got 3 more. So 4 Patreon subscriptions tonight. So if that's you, if you want to get one of those, holla at your boy, and we'll take care of it. All right. I am officially out of here. Okay? We good? We good? I'm officially out of here. And to that Bama joker that's up in here, don't y'all got some Bama personalities that you can go talk to over there? Don't y'all got anybody? I mean, seriously. Y'all won 6 or 7 national championships in the last 15 years, and y'all ain't got nobody live streaming that you can go bother? You just got to waste your time up in here messing with me? All right? Go bother someone else, all right?